Welcome to Inside the Rookery, our yearly event where we get together and discuss spooky things with our hostess, with the mostess, the princess of the powers perilous, the bride of law.
Don't tell me you're going to do that voice all the way through the show.
I do not know if I can help such things.
Hello.
Hello!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 100th episode of Inside the Spookery. And
Blimey.
2 years since we started this crazy adventure.
Cheers. Oh,
Cheers.
hang on. I've got to open a beer. Hang on.
Cheers to everyone out there. I would just like to, before we do all of our normal shenanigans, just say thanks so much. You have all been awesome. As I'm sure will become clear as we answer various questions, this wasn't exactly the plan. However, I am delighted that we're here.
It wasn't?
Not entirely.
Okay.
But by the end of this stream, if I'm not slightly sozzled, I am going to call this a failure. Cheers, and I hope anyone out there has got a drink too. Chin chin.
Cheers. Yakida.
Cheers. So yeah, I'm a Kelpie, an evil Kelpie water spirit. Andy, you're a vampire.
I might
Mark,
be.
You're a spooky captain. And
Sure.
Andy Leask, you have dressed up as someone from South Park.
Oh no, they killed Andy!
If my costume isn't spooky, my gin is. I'm drinking Whitby Gin Prince of Darkness edition, which
Wow.
I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but it is a lovely blood red color. So
Nice.
that's my
I very much like the look of that. I should like to have a little people when you next come round, and maybe also drink the gin.
I'm on the marshmallow milk stout.
Ooh.
I'm
am
on Jack
on-
Daniels because me.
I'm on a drink from my watery home to keep myself hydrated as I wander through these dry lands.
I should be on the rum, I suppose, but it is the sun is not even close to over the yard arm, whatever time of day that is. So it's a breakfast stout for me.
So for our episode today, we have gathered many a question from across the good old server on Discord. And if you have any as we go along, feel free to ask. We are in a ask us anything state
God help.
because we're drunk and we'll happily answer any questions that come our way. Although do be aware we might just ignore you because we are drunk and we can do that. It's been 200 episodes. We're allowed.
Crazy. No, it's been 100 episodes over 2 years.
100 episodes over 2 years. See, I'm already drunk.
Already.
You cannot trust the word that I say. It has
So-
been so many years since last I woke him.
So Caravan asks, spelt wrong, Andy. I think you
Oh,
copied
God.
the questions
I
today.
will do a quick word of warning on this, actually. I pasted all of these questions in and typed them in without my glasses on, which means that everything was a gigantic blur and a little bit of a, I hope I've done this right. The answer is going to be no, I haven't. There's going to be many an error over the course of the next hour, so buckle up.
Right. So Caravan asks, was 100 episodes and 2 years planned?
I think that is an interesting question to begin. So, 100 years. It was certainly planned for myself, for I live forever. In terms of the Inside the Rookery for us was always to begin with sort of an error that we landed into. We started streaming after the playtest for Ship of Fools. We just got together every week and we chatted about something because we'd had so much fun doing the Ship of Fools and we had so much questions and so many different ideas come forth that we thought, let's just carry on. We did that for about 10, 12 weeks or so. And we thought, why don't we just sort of do this as a nice aside? Because it's nice and easy. It keeps us coming together every week. It gives us something to chat about. It gives you a chance to come and meet us and have a chin wag. And as we sat down thinking that would be a good idea, we thought we could have a guest too, and we could just carry that on. It was never planned to be anything other than a thing what we did do for a while we were doing other things in the background. but it just turned into something that hasn't really stopped. And here we are, where I'm nearing the end of our 6th season now, each season being around about 16 to 18 episodes approximately. And we have had guests from across not just the gaming industry, but we've had novelists, we've had people from video games, we've had people from board games, we've had people who are also on the community side of things, so building up conventions, or alternatively just discussing stuff like how to make a movie. We've had pretty much
We've had
across the board support. It's been fun.
We've had other streamers, one of whom is in the
Yeah.
audience tonight.
Hey!
Sorry about your ears. It is water-based. Do not worry. This will wash out.
I remember there was certainly, we thought, well, we should probably do some sort of podcasty, streamy thing, because that's what the kids do these days, you know. And as a little feisty indie developer, in contrast to some of the more monolithic organizations within this business, being just engaging on a kind of personal level with our players, our potential customers, our kind of community teammates, it seemed like a cool thing to do. And I remember talking at the start, well, what we're gonna talk about, what we are doing, our process. Can we do that every week? And then it became, well, no, let's cast a wider net and make it all about the industry as a whole. Hence, Inside the Rookery is as much about inside this industry as it is about inside our little organization.
Exactly.
It has been, for me, an immense amount of fun. We've got a nice little setup where we don't all need to turn up each week, because there's several of us, obviously, but we've got guests too, which means that we get weeks off, or we can come on, and it's relaxed. It's an hour, and pretty much universally, every single last person that's come on, no matter how big or small they be, have said, well, that was just really fun. And I think that for us, that's where it all boils down to. We, as a group, we are in this because we enjoy it. It's what we enjoy and love doing. We're not in this because this is how we get money. I mean, we are, because we need to eat, but we could get lots more money elsewhere. We're doing this because we love it. And it's really nice to be in a position where we can share that with everybody else. And I've really enjoyed it because of that. But yes, we do need to eat.
Yeah, and usually we say, well, we always say thank you to our patrons at the end of the stream, and we pop up a text that gives credit to them. But let's just say thank you to them right now. In particular, Zoltan, who's in the chat, who has been as a Golden Rook, one of our biggest supporters. So thank you so much, Zoltan. But all the patrons who support us at whatever level you do, even if you simply, give us £1 once and then share us all over the place, that's just as valuable to us as anything else.
Yeah,
so
thanks so much. You're absolutely awesome. Can I also throw out a thanks to Bastian as well, because he's our other Golden Rook just now. We cannot forget Bastian. An absolute delight to be working with you, sir.
Indeed. And Seagoat, thank you. I'm glad you like the variety of topics and guests. It does keep the stream fresh, you're right. And you give us great questions every week. So thank you.
Yep.
Right. I'll move on to the next one. We're going to take a complete diversion. We're going to address our spooky attire and talk about gaming. So Seagoat asks, when running a spooky game, advice always suggests atmosphere, low lighting, candles, eerie soundtracks, etc. When you're at a con, that's out of your control. So how best can you run a spooky game when you're running a game in a busy con?
Yeah, this is an actually difficult question for some, because there is so much advice when it comes to running spooky things, and whether that's running at home or elsewhere, that you use the atmosphere. So we drop down the lights, we bring up music, we light some candles, we perhaps put on a stupid accent, to do something that generally builds up the atmosphere. You can't really do that if you're playing in your local pub, if you've happened to go to a community center for a big event, or if you've got a con game. Instead, what you have to rely upon is the strength of the material that you're working on, and generally actually dialing back the horror so that when it comes, it's much more impactful. What you need to, I find, at least for the con games that I've run, is build up the dread. You need to build up the fear of what might be coming next. And the tension is going to be what brings forth the atmosphere, rather than the atmosphere helping. You'll find that if you're in a noisy room with people screaming by and the occasional person laughing in the background, that the atmosphere side of it is something you just have to accept is never going to occur. So instead, what you need to do is try to engage your players as much as you possibly can with the material that you have. So build up whatever it is that the story may be until it reaches the point where everybody's sitting on the edge of their seat going, what the fuck is coming, or what is about to occur, so that when you start stepping over those lines, everybody's already sitting there gripping their chairs, quite unsure exactly where everything's going to go. So for me, instead of going for atmosphere, go for tension.
And I think as well that there's lots of different kinds of horror, right? And like a lot of those atmospheric things very much play into the gothic horror specifically, you know, which obviously makes sense. But you know, the other kind of common strand of horror is where the setting and location is actually very mundane, very familiar, and it's the juxtaposition of the horrifying in that. So if I were trying to run a horror-based game at a con, I would set it at a con. And I would have like whatever the threat is, you know, people being possessed by demons or zombies or whatever the hell it was, is happening in the background of a con, and only the PCs are aware. So all that background noise is the actual background noise of the potential threat that's kind of coming to them. And that might actually make it more unsettling.
You're a genius. You're like an actual genius. That's amazing. I love it. That would really freak me out because I'm really affected by stuff like I will really immerse myself in something, and that would be really great. So one of the interns is coming home. She says, I hope there's food in the house. I'm hungry. Good luck. But she also says, teenage whining aside, the Rookery streams are super useful for my uni coursework. She's studying games design and production. I'm glad of that. Tell all your friends.
Yes. Maybe we can be sponsored by Adverts, right?
Yeah. So at these points of tension, that's where you add the jump scare. I think that's supposed to be Seagoat, I presume, not the just scare and slap the table. Yeah. I love that idea, Andy. At least that's really clever.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, of course, if you're running a spooky game in like a Scottish pub, violence and horror are never too far away in the real world anyway, let's be honest.
It's true.
Let me just add as well, as I recall, Kieran Gillen was recently, one of our previous guests was recently posting about one of the con games he's going to run, and he did something similar. But his game is all about a meta RPG game. It's a game about RPG settings. So he's having everybody that turns up to run a game for his game to be playing a GM in the game. And for all the players that are turning up, they're going to be playing players in that GM's game for that extra layer of meta knowledge. So these concept games, particularly for cons, or when you're in an environment that is perhaps not standard, the classic at home, is generally a better idea than necessarily sticking with the I'm playing game X and it's got its suggested con game, let's just run with that. You're often better thinking about, well, I'm going to be in an environment that's different. What can I do to try and make something truly memorable for the day itself? And unless that company has presented you with a con adventure that's designed specifically for cons, which is really rare, running with your own ideas often is a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. And maybe there's a market there for cons to inhabit kind of less, like, what would you call them? Like bland and soulless kind of function halls, which is what they normally do, kind of convention centers. Like, you know, for instance, in fact, actually, I can talk of a very specific personal first-hand experience of Andy running a horror-themed Woofrup game at Compulsion. And
yes.
One of the nice things about that is Compulsion is held in the TVA Student Union in Edinburgh, which, if you don't know it, is this massive old Gothic building that looks like a castle from the outside. And it's just full inside. It's like a warren. It's full of all these little sort of nooks and crannies, or it used to be. I think health and safety has made it much more sanitized now. But yeah. But I think when we did that one,
it's the oldest purpose-built student union in the world.
Nice. And I think when we did it, we were in like a little booth, like off into the side, so we were a bit private. And it did feel, yeah, you were able to build the atmosphere a bit. And, yeah.
I remember the day when the building was built. It was in my elder years, of course.
Props that make the tension add up are good. Dread using a wooden block tower. What, like just Jenga on the table?
Yeah, that's it. That's an actual RPG, Lindsay. Dread. That's the tension mechanic. Like literally, there's a Jenga table, and yeah.
Oh,
and things like that are super good for cons because that's the sort of thing that can fall down, so to speak, because of other people. And that's good because it's making use of the con environment rather than necessarily just the environment that the individual scenario may have been made for.
Edinburgh does have a lot of these appropriate venues, and if only there was a castle for sale in the locale that somebody would buy and convert into a beautiful convention weekend roleplay destination.
For a bargain, 1.7 million. I mean, really.
For a bargain, 1.7 million pounds.
I shall have to use the Apple shares that I bought back in the day.
Yeah. Okay, so Seagoat follows up with 2 years. Wow, time has flown by. Congratulations. Having been doing this for 2 years, what lessons have you learned you can pass on to others?
I'm going to answer purely from the perspective of Inside the Rookery, since it's our second birthday for Inside the Rookery in terms of Seagoat's question. And I would say that I have learned that definitely having the tight schedule is good, but also having a nice space to ensure that you don't need to be there every week is good. And that is where I say, sorry, Lindsay. Our hostess with the mostess has been there for every single last episode, I think, bar one, maybe?
Maybe two.
I think Andy,
one, maybe two, certainly one.
Well, maybe two, yeah, totally. So sorry, Lindsay. But having both that solid time scale is a good thing because it means that the audience always knows when it's coming. They always know it's going to be there. They can always turn up each week. But it also provides a certain amount of regimen behind the scenes to ensure that everything moves forward. Another thing I would learn is that you shouldn't be shy in reaching out and asking people to join you, because pretty much every single person I've asked has said, yeah, that'd be your ace. They don't actually care whether you've got an audience the size of America or whether there's just 4 people that turn up. Most people are just happy sitting down and discussing cool things with people that are engaged. Now, obviously, we've got a slight advantage because we're already inside the rookery, so to speak. We're inside the industry. So we know a lot of people. But one of the things that I've found, because obviously I do podcasts with other people as well, is that other podcasters who may have zero audience at all, they reach out all the time. And the vast majority of the people they reach out to just go, yeah, that sounds good. So if you're out there thinking, I think I'd like to give this a go, give it a go. It's fun. I'd say one last thing that I particularly enjoyed with our ones is that most podcasts that I've been involved with or that I do are long. They rarely last shorter than 2 hours. They're normally 2 to 3 hours in length. And most of the interviews that I've been on are generally on the longer side. And I think that our 1 hour format has been to our benefit. It means it's not too onerous for us. It's not too onerous for anyone else, but it also ensures that people like me have to shut up.
Eventually, yes. I mean, we've talked about doing potentially longer form ones, but that would always be like in addition to the cozy little 1 hour.
I think what I learned is that we really should have at the start set up the podcasting transfer at the same time, because now we've got a massive backlog that pretty soon we really do need to transfer to just audio, and there's a lot to do, but
yeah, we've got quite a lot of work to do there now. Yeah, that's a very good point. I do another podcast on Sundays, and the transfer of that is almost instant. And it's something that I definitely wish we'd organized right at the very beginning, but we didn't know anything. We're still in many respects noobs. We just sort of turn up and we're just talking faces sitting in squares, and we go away again and we're like, well, that happened. And we don't really learn much as each episode goes by. It's just we do another one, another one, another one. And here we are 2 years later, pretty much doing exactly the same as what we did 2 years earlier without any real change. So I can't say I've learned as much as I would like, if I'm being honest.
Smiling Tom says that the castle is just a Kickstarter way. Well, I did check that, and Kickstarter has very strict rules on buying property. So
it is so annoying. I cannot buy back my ancestral land. It was. I cannot buy back my ancestral castle. And truth be told, it is sort of my ancestral castle in that my ancestors did indeed own it, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. So we should get it. I'm sure if we kickstarted some experiences, but had to fund somewhere to have those experiences, maybe it would work.
Maybe there's a loophole.
Watch this space. Yeah, someone else has put in the comments that there is a downside to it. It's got an energy rating that is pretty much the worst you can get. So imagine the electricity bills and the gas bills there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go back into the past. GM Fossey asks, how did you get into the hobby of RPG? And assuming you were young at the time, did you manage to play it as often as before when becoming adults? We have talked about this quite a lot, so we probably won't tell the story again. But I would say that when do you become an adult? Certainly when we were students, or I was a student and the two Andys were working, we role played like every hour of the day that we weren't working or studying.
Yeah.
Often foregoing sleep to finish a session.
That was very good for my health. I am not diabetic these days because of all of these poor decisions in my youth. Or perhaps I am. Of course, being a vampire, I do not need to worry about such things.
Mark, I've wanted to ask you, for when you were at Games Workshop working, so it's not RPG, it's war games. Did you play a lot at the same time as working there? Like, was your art informed by that, or did you just not have time because they shut you in a garret?
No, it didn't do that. I mean, there was certainly a lot of gaming that went on at the studio. There was always leagues and tournaments and things like that was happening. No, I painted miniatures. I think that was my kind of indulgence in the hobby. I think by the time I'd become a kind of full-time genre fantasy sci-fi artist, my tabletop gaming was kind of, sadly, when I think back on it, sort of minimalized. But obviously, growing up, it had been massive. I mean, that's what got me into it as a possible career. You know, I started off playing Middle Earth tabletop games. There was a rule set in the mid-70s, I think, called the Ring Bearer. And there was something different minifigs and Ralpath that did miniatures you could use for sort of Lord of the Rings type stuff, and I'd play that. And then D&D came along, and I was certainly in my teenage years, I was consumed by it. I tended to tail off as I got into my 20s, I think, because my gaming group sort of fractured. You know, people went off to university or took day jobs or got married, and they weren't allowed to come out anymore. That kind of thing. And then video games came along, and then that became my gaming obsession. So it's been lovely to get back into more tabletop stuff in recent years and kind of rediscover my first love, as it were.
Yeah, on my side, I have always gamed pretty much since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. My parents also gamed, so it was very much a next step. I'm a second-generation gamer, arguably a third, because I once role-played with my own grandmother. She played D'Artagnan in a game of Fighting Fantasy Advanced. It was good times. As I grew older, definitely not more mature, that never really stopped. And the types of games I have played has changed and vacillated from one thing to another. At some points, roleplay would dominate. At other points, video games would dominate. At other points, board games would dominate. Whenever I've found myself slipping out of having a routine of gaming of some sort, I've always gone out of my way to try and enforce a new one. For example, when we were going through a big flood, back when my kids were tiny, and we got moved out of our house, the very second we got into a new house, we started up a weekly gaming session for just board games. And on top of that, we also roleplayed. But that was purely to try and get
Warhammer.
back with everyone. Yeah, absolutely. We're also playing the actual battle game too.
Yeah.
We were doing literally all of it at once, plus video gaming. I have generally always ensured that my evenings, as much as they can be, are engaged with the thing that keeps me excited and passionate about the thing that I'm working on. Because the second that it's only work, and I'm only doing games because that's my job, it moves on from being something that is super enjoyable to being a chore. And that is ultimately the worst thing that, as far as I'm concerned, I could arrive at. I don't want it to be a chore. I want it to be something that I want to do because I need more rules for myself. I need more stuff for myself. I need to be engaged with this shit because I need more. One of the greatest drivers of my content creation over time has been, I need the next thing for my thing. I'll just go write that now. And the next day I'll have it because I required it. And then that turned into the next expansion for whatever I might have been working on elsewhere, because I just took all of those adaptations, which were designed for play, not designed for a spec. So these are all things that are designed to be used rather than just designed because you've been hired to do a game, which generally means that usually they are much more immediately playable because they have already been played multiple times already. So for me, loosely, I haven't really stopped. I'm still not an adult. I will continue gaming, and I will continue being inspired by the very games that I can't help myself but enjoy. Good times.
Yeah, wow. Yes. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to that. Very quick question. Long Shadow asks, are any of you going to be at Dragonmeet on the 2nd of December? Mark definitely isn't. We don't know yet. We're just sorting out some scheduling issues. Andy
We have
Lee
some
Screen,
massive... Oh. Andy didn't hear you, I think.
Andy Least, I don't think has any plans to be there, but perhaps he does. No.
Yeah, we have some massive scheduling issues because it's also my parents' 50th. And they're obviously not watching me tonight, so I don't need to worry about it. And we're intending, obviously, on trying to get... I imagine they're not. We're intending on going all the way to the north of Scotland at about exactly the same time, and I want to go for more reasons than one. I've got some people I'd really like to meet, some things that I would like to nail down. It'd be really nice to be there for. However, because of the practicalities of family, and both my parents are, well, obviously I'm at that age where you don't want to miss out, but you don't want to miss out on a 50th anyway. So I want to try and make sure that I get up there. We are currently in a state of, we don't know. I mean, on an outside possibility, yes, but I wouldn't like to confirm.
Yeah, this is a busy time in our life. Our younger daughter is also auditioning all over the country to study singing, and so that's taking me around the place. One day I'm in London for on work business in the morning, and I'm going to catch a train and meet her in Manchester to make it there for her audition. So I'll be going to London overnight from Edinburgh, then back up from London to Manchester, which seems, if you told me that a few years ago, I would have been like, I'll never do that. But here we are. So we will find.
I would just like to, before we go to anything else, I'd just like to say I'm loving Mark Gibbons' spooky straw.
Yes, my straw's black. God.
Every time he comes in for a drink, and he's like,
microphone on now.
It's just brilliant. Oh yeah, that's a spooky straw. Look at that. It's got a ghost on it.
Blimey.
Oh, sorry, Mark needs his monocle to see the ghost.
Yes.
So we don't know yet, but we'll keep you updated on our plans. And we would love to see all of you. If anyone's there, we would love to catch up with people. That would be great. Can
I just bring up this comment from Craig? Thanks very much, Craig. We saw him over at Chimera, which was good. So really nice to see you there. On that, I've got a thing for Chimera this month.
Josie, you might get taken up on that offer. We need to do a law hammer trip to a convention. We do indeed. Seagoat, you know the feeling. Yes, the young Seagoat on their way around the country. So Sea-Kid, yeah. So very quick question: what is your favorite Halloween outfit you've worn? I've got a lot of these, but my favorite one that one of my children has worn was like a pure 70s spooky like clown costume, which she wore when she was like 3 and a half, maybe 4. And I swear to you, as she walked down the street in it, there was a ripple of excitement from all the people going past because it was the cutest thing anyone had ever seen. This clown racing at full speed down the street, and all I heard was, "Oh, look at that clown! Look at that tiny clown!" And it was the cutest thing ever. But my own favorite one was going as Fantastic Mr. Fox when the girls were going out guising. And I was quite thin then. I'd put on my full waistcoat and coat and my full Fantastic Mr. Fox face paint. And I stood behind the girls and their friends as they did their party piece in Scotland. We have to sing and dance and tell jokes for our sweets or money. You don't just get it for free. And at the end of them doing it, the little old lady said, "And isn't your brother going to do something as well?" They thought I was my children's little brother.
Awesome.
Yep.
How about yourself, Mark? You are known for your great love of a costume. I mean, can you choose between your babies?
I think probably my favorite. I do on occasion host a Halloween party here, and a few years ago we did a zombie survivors theme. So all the party guests, half of them turned up as zombies and half of them turned up as survivors. And in the upstairs bathroom, I had like a makeup station with a guy that was a fantastic special effects makeup artist. And over the course of the evening, if you're a survivor, you get a little tap on the shoulder and told to go upstairs, where you got turned into a zombie and you came back down as a zombie version of yourself, of the character you'd arrived at. So you've been got. So in the end, by the end of the party, everybody has been zombified. I think as a Halloween evening and a collection of costumes, that was probably my favorite.
I like that one. On my side, for those of you who have watched many of our previous streams, I have dropped my mum and some of her crazy inventions multiple times, whether that was her creating a full Space Marine outfit or whatever, because out of papier-mâché because of who she was. But my favorite one was probably a wizard that she built for me when I was about 15. We always won first prize in every single costume contest because of my mum. And I say we, that was my brother and myself. And our competition was basically each other. My favorite one was a wizard outfit, which sounds exceedingly dull because it's so normal, but it was so good. I was 15 and I had a beard that went right down to my chest. She had built an articulated set of wizard arcane gloves, as you do, out of paper. God knows how she made it stiff, but it did. They went round my fingers. I could move them up and down. It made it look like I had actual gauntlets on with big spiked claws. An enormous long staff with a clawed globe sitting across the top for me to scry in. And I freaking loved it. I had long white hair and I was 15 and I looked like I was 198. And I absolutely digged it. And every outfit that came for me after that could never match up to it because I was 15. And at the age of 15, everything is just so fucking cool that nothing quite matches that thing that
That's
you
true.
have peaked up with all of your teenage hormones, those teenage ideals, that nothing could quite ever match up to it. And it was always a little bit of a, yeah, but it's no wizard. And my mum, next year, bless her soul, she really went the extra mile to make an outfit that she thought was better. And all I could be that year, 16-year-old version of me that I was, I mean, it's all right, but it's no wizard. Poor woman. I feel sorry for my mom.
Andy Law, I've sent you some things on Discord. Can you put them in so I can share them, please, while we go to the next question?
You want me to pop those into the pictures?
Yes, please.
So I can share them, right? I'll go figure that out in the background. I'll put myself on mute, which is probably a blessed welcome for everyone. And I'll be back in a moment.
What is it? Seagoat asks, what is it about tabletop RPG gaming that drives you on? Will this drive get you through the next 100 episodes? I think it will. I think gaming is, like, as Andy said, all of our lives, our passion, and I think we will. As long as people keep wanting to talk to us, and there's no shortage of people who want to talk to us, I think we might get through the next 100 episodes.
I think so, yeah.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't see why not. Hiran says, I don't think I ever surpassed my 6 World Book Day Luke Skywalker. And Josie's favourite one is when Andy and I, for her birthday, dressed as the Mad Hatter and the Red Queen. That was amazing. And we got a teeny little cake that we brought out as a joke that was like a tiny little teapot. And then the real massive cake came out. It was a good moment.
That's right. And we had the massive custard creams as well.
Yeah, we had the massive custard creams, which you found for me, Andy. Like, everything was too big or too small. It was the best party. So
my favorite costumes, I didn't answer on that one.
Sorry, you didn't answer.
That's all right. Well, when I was a kid, I had a really good. We went out. It must have been just after Ghostbusters came out, and so we went as Ghostbusters, me and 2 of my mates. And our cleverest moment was we made our own proton pack, so we put like cardboard around a rucksack and all that kind of stuff. But the stroke of genius was putting a tape player, and I'm aware that ages me, on which we had put like an endless loop of the song from Ghostbusters on it. So wherever we went, we had the soundtrack kind of playing with us. We felt in like, I mean, that would be what, 1985? Like we felt very, very clever 9-year-old ourselves. But more recently, there was one Halloween. It was when I was a student teacher, so I was on my first placement at a high school, and it may not have actually been on Halloween. It was Halloween week certainly, but I was teaching a novel that is made up of every chapter is like in a different genre, and we were doing, I timed it so we were doing the horror genre at that point that it was around there. So I went in and I was just wearing like a normal suit, like unbeknownst to the kids. Like underneath it, the shirt was all like blood stained and had like, like bits of viscera coming out of it and stuff like that. But you couldn't tell when I had my jacket on. So that I started the lesson absolutely normally, and then just at a certain moment in the lesson, I just took my jacket off, and the kids, like, it was perhaps too realistic. The kids properly freaked out. I had to let one of them go to the nurse because she felt faint and everything. So, yeah, things you learn. Yeah.
So, Long Shadow asks, when you started Rookery Publications, that was obviously, there's the clown.
Wow.
I got there, bless her little clown face.
Oh.
That's the clown. That's Josie as a book reading pirate. And that is Laurie dressed up as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, perhaps the greatest composer of all time, as she told me.
The best bit about that costume wasn't the costume. It was her wandering around going, I'm perhaps the greatest composer of all time.
Yeah, like I can hear her voice just seeing that picture,
So
Good times.
She's actually going to kill me. You better take them down.
She'll thank us for that. Definitely thanks for that one.
Right. Well, we'd better get on with some. You were all in London recently on Rookery business. Got any news you can share? And there's also
Rookery business.
question about if we've got any grand plans for your next year. If so, care to share them. So yeah, let's go back to the London question.
So the answer is yes, we do. Now, if you were here for last time's Inside the Spookery, you'll be aware we had just at that point, with ink still drying, penned off a deal with Modiphius to present our funky board game that had been created by good old Mark Gibbons and Andy Chambers. That has, I believe, just gone off for its files to be printed this month. We were down in London double checking everything for that. But that isn't the only reason we were down in London. We were also down in London because I think you're all aware we have been building something else. And that whole we were building something else is now progressing apace. We have a host of things that we are very close to doing, but we don't want to do it until we're, as we have discussed multiple times, 100% sure what we like. But we have progressed past an enormous milestone, for, at least as far as we're concerned, because we're about to make a call, an actual CA-CAW! 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 And I think that is something that we should probably bring up also, which I'm going to annoy my daughters while I bring this up again. Out to stage. But I should also be able to flick across like that and say, we're about to make an actual honest to goodness step, which is very much about being a proper games company. Woohoo! We're grown-ups. We're about to do a big art call. I'm going to pass over to Mark to discuss exactly what that's going to involve. But loosely speaking, we're about to start hiring folks so that we can finish off all the books, what we have been building. And we could not be more excited for this next step, because it means that we're going to be moving from having a whole bunch of ridiculously cool ideas to having a whole bunch of ridiculously cool stuff that we can show, sell, and do things with. I shall now pass over to the always marvelous Mr. Mark Gibbons. What exactly are you looking for in an artist call?
In an artist, yeah, rampant enthusiasm. It's something that initially when we started this merry hayride, I was the only artist working on I'm still the only artist working on the project, which is why we are where we are. but it was kind of sort of necessary to pin down an approach to the art, obviously stylistic tone and all that kind of stuff. But it became quite apparent that if we wanted to provide an ongoing series of adventures, a narrative campaign for our players to follow, we would need to bring in other artists to kind of help with that workload, because otherwise nobody wants to wait 2 years between books if they're running a campaign. So part of the time we spent in London was actually sort of thrashing a sort of a pipeline out and how we might approach that. And it became very apparent that we need to hire in extra talent. We need to bring in freelancers to come and help us populate our marvelous little PDF adventures with beautiful pieces of art. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for artists, not necessarily in the RPG or tabletop background. Certainly stylistically, we've got quite a dynamic, punchy, almost comic book style. The artwork is going to be, the artwork we want is going to be black and white, because that's the style of the Coil Crown books. And yeah, just artists who think they've got a nice vibe about their work and energy to it. They don't have to be experienced. In fact, in some cases, it would be awesome for us to be able to highlight new and upcoming talent. That would actually be something we'd really enjoy. So I mean, we're going to be hunting around as well. We don't expect everybody to just come to us. We're going to be looking. We're going to be prowling around the art stations and the Deviant Arts and all that kind of stuff, and the social medias, looking for people we think that would be a great fit. But if you think, I mean, if you've seen any of our art, you kind of know that it doesn't have to be like my art. I guess vaguely complementary to it, but it doesn't have to have that same sort of style. One of the things that I want to do is actually have, instead of having artists work on individual pieces, I'd like to hire an artist and have them to work on a particular project, so they would own all the art on that across that. It might be something like a, I don't know, 30-40 page PDF that's maybe got 6 to a dozen pieces of art in it, but they get to do all of them, so they get to have their style on a project. So yeah, there's no sort of compromising your individual artistic preferences or expression. It would be, that project would be yours, and you would shine in your style in that. That's I'm a big fan of that kind of approach to making art. So yeah, send us your stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the email address is there. That's rookeryp@gmail.com. I am on the other end of that email address, and I'll be collating all that to then pass over to our art director, Mark, for him to peruse.
Yeah, we'll be popping this image, this nice little slide here, up on social media. So if you know anybody out there that you think fits the bill and would be a complimentary fit with us, and obviously good old art director Mark, do please share it to them. Don't badger anyone, but there's absolutely no harm in doing a quick ping just in case they're interested. Further, if you know anyone who definitely would be interested, do send them over to take a quick look. Go find it. Plus, send them over to this video so they can come along and have a little watch over this section. I will do my damnedest to figure out how to bloody bookmark a video. It can't be that hard. I'm such a noob at this thing. You'd think after 2 years we'd know what the fuck we were doing. But we will do our damnedest to bookmark this section out so that anybody that wants to come along and listen to Mark have a wee warble about how awesome it would be to work with him on building up entire supplements alongside him, they'll be able to do so. So if there's anyone out there that knows how to bookmark a video, now is the time to contact me over on Discord so that I can do that part. Such a noob.
I moved Mark up because I didn't like covering the art director when I was bringing up the comments. It felt rude.
Oh,
so Mark's you've been moved up in the hierarchy. No, there's no hierarchy.
Okay.
It happened to be that way. So
yeah, I mean, we could probably put together, and certainly if people aren't familiar with what we're doing, we could probably put together a little spread or a little package that shows the kind of art and how we're using it. You know, for instance, in the PDFs that we already have out, we can probably so if an artist contacts us, well, show me some of your stuff so I can kind of get a vibe for it. We should probably put something together, at least a couple of little packs of a little pack that demonstrates the kind of thing we're looking for. That'd probably be handy.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. So all I can say is if you have reached this point and you're out there thinking, oh, that would be awesome, do please reach out. You know where we are. We would very much like to talk to you. We're not looking for experience. We are looking for enthusiasm and style, artistic flair. Just take a look at that cool, demonically possessed thing what Mark has put up there. It's freaking fucking awesome. And if you take a look, it's a nice few splashes in the background. It's got a lovely, almost comic book style. It's going to be cool. Talk to us.
Hopefully.
Excellent. So that is most of our London news. I mean, there's a bit more, but that will be revealed as the months, weeks and months go by.
Yeah. It was a good,
had a lovely dinner.
It was a good visit to London.
Yeah.
The first time when we all met face to face.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
four of us. Yes.
We went to dinner, but also Mark, Andy Law, and myself went to the Jeff Wayne War of the Worlds experience, and it was awesome.
Do you have the picture for that?
Oh no, I don't know.
Oh, I'll pull it out for next time because we can't pass by without bringing that freaking picture up because it's awesome. Because we saved the world from aliens. It's the truth. We were there. You can try and deny it all you want, but it's not true. We definitely saved the world from aliens, and we are all now quite fluent in "Hola!"
We did build a brave new world.
Yes, we did build a brave new world.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it was my cheekbones that slew those aliens. You'll all agree that when you see the picture.
Very impressive.
So, yeah. So Killer Chandra asks, this is a follow-up. Can we expect more locations from you? They are the things I need most. Interesting.
Yes.
But
the answer is simply yes. It's one of the reasons why we are looking to hire in more artists so that we can start working through a lot of the material that we have and get that finished and turned into material that you out there can consume and go, how exciting. So the answer is simply yes.
Yeah, that was another great thing about sitting down in London and just kind of thrashing through some of these little hurdles to sort of production that we've kind of just been we're wrestling with a little bit. We hadn't actually sat down and thrashed out solutions to this because obviously we've been buried in. I've certainly been buried in production for Ship of Fools, and wondering, well, how do we move forward with this? It was great to actually sit down with the rest of the team and talk about practical solutions to those, and realizing, oh yeah, you should do that, and we should do that, and I should worry less about this, and I can focus on that. So it feels like moving into 2024 is going to be hopefully very exciting and very productive.
Yeah, and
I'm actually beyond excited.
Yeah, as a writer, it was great to sit down with Mark. Mark and I went for a lovely walk in London, and we went past various touristy places, but they were too busy because it was half term. But we drew inspiration from them. But I drew inspiration most of all from the best porn star martini I've ever had, and it re-energized my creative writing.
That's all it takes.
What can I say? It was amazing. We even came up with a new variation of which we will not talk in public.
Good times.
But yeah, it really, I think for everyone as a whole, even as a race, that sounds really dramatic, but I play an elf at the moment, so I'm always dramatic. As a race of people, we've had a very traumatic past few years, and we never knew when we started Rookery Publications. I mean, literally, we must have been having our first meetings with Mark, with Graham, with the five of us, when literally as COVID was starting. We immediately went into lockdown. Andy Law immediately got seriously ill, and the next year and a half were actually a bit of a blur for us. So I think it has been a long road for us to get to this place, but it's been, I don't think anyone would ever have wanted to start a business knowing that there was a massive global pandemic about to start. It was, as you'll all know, because you all went through it too, it was a bit of a crazy time.
It was. But, we're on the other side now, and exciting things are afoot.
Very excited for the next chapter in Rookery Publications' existence.
Right, so what's the next question?
let's have a look back. So we'll go back to episode 100. Looking back on the past 100 episodes, what were your highlights? So what has been your best episode?
Well, that's actually tough.
That is tough. Do we have to pick just one?
No, you can go for as
And
many as you like.
any way you want, Andy.
Because I mean, it's been good. I mean, like obviously for me, and this relates to what Andy said about a lesson we learned that way, about a lesson we learned about not being afraid to ask people. So like having Adrian Tchaikovsky on was a huge deal for me. I'm a huge fan of his work, his fantasy work, his sci-fi work. I think he's an incredible writer. I genuinely didn't think he'd say yes, but I genuinely just pinged him on social media, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds like fun." So much so he's coming back on in like 2 weeks.
Yes.
Something like that.
Double check.
yeah.
He's coming on. Adrian is on in 1, 2, 3 weeks. 4 weeks. 4 weeks. He's
4 weeks.
start of December.
Yeah. So like that, you know, yeah, that was definitely a highlight for me. But also, like, it's been interesting in terms of the RPG front. Like some of the conversations you have with people that I had never like met before. So like, I really enjoyed the Shotguns and Sorcery one we did with Matt Forbeck and his son.
Forbeck.
It was really nice. It was a beside the Rookery. So I think it was a little bit longer, and we were talking about his product a little bit more. But it was nice to talk to another game designer about game design, but also about narrative design and stories and theme. And that was I felt like that was a really, really rich conversation, a really, really good one. And there's been loads of them like that, but those are a couple of the ones that jump out to me.
For me, it's been speaking to friends, finding new friends, about stuff that we all love, and having an opportunity to talk shop with people that we don't normally talk shop with. We just don't. We're not all sitting in some sort of game design heaven behind the scenes, all chatting about the shit that we do. Normally, we're sitting in our individual little islands, never talking to each other, but fully aware that other people are doing things, watching them get released and going, "Oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that's a really nice idea." But instead of being on the outside of that, we get to be on the inside of it at various points. And it's just really nice to sit down with people and just relax about the stuff that we are building and we're excited about, and for that natural enthusiasm to come through. And to do a little plug for what we're doing next week. Next week, as was much requested over in Patreon some time ago when we did a big discussion as to what should be next, we're getting Steve Saville back, our very first ever guest. So our next guest for episode 101 will be Steve Saville, the author. If you don't know Steve, go watch his first episode. He had some lovely anecdotes, particularly about George R.R. Martin in particular. And he's going to be popping back. And it was just nice to catch up with Steve, because Steve, for me, was someone that I worked with 1,000 years ago, back with Games Workshop when he was doing vampire books. And we were Facebook friends and very little more. But we had been in contact a lot when we were working together. So it was just good to just sit down with him and go, "Hi, it's great to see you again." Because we very rarely speak to each other outside of perhaps an event. And when COVID came, there was no events. So there was no reason to talk with anyone. It was a weird time. And for me, our weekly show has given us an opportunity to just stay in contact in a way that we definitely wouldn't have any other way. Plus, make a lot of new friends that we would never have ever encountered if we hadn't done this. It's been, I think, for me, just kind of great. It's been really enjoyable. So thanks for watching.
For me, I think probably the Remembering Russ Nicholson episode. Not least of all because we got Ian Livingston to participate, but just the fact that though the great and the good would be happy to come on our humble little platform to pay tribute to such an amazing and important artist. I think that was quite humbling. Yeah, I'd say quite moving to watch that.
It was. That was nice.
Yeah, that was going to be my highlight too, because I thought it was a lovely episode and it was amazing to see all the art. But I was also really like scared and to be like, he's a sir,
yes,
like that was quite something for me. And actually a lot of the episodes where it's been something that I played when I was younger, we had a few people who had been around right at the start of White Wolf of Vampire the Masquerade. Like, I was pretty excited about those episodes. The Games Workshop people, I was excited about them, but like, I speak to Mark every week now, so like, what more could you want? Like, he is like, he made my favorite Games Workshop pieces like ever. So you know, the rest of them. But Gav Thorpe has been great. I've loved Gav coming on every time. But
yeah, Gav's
but
great.
certainly, yeah. I think and a couple more for me have been talking to Jendia Gammon, having her back on. That was great. Yep, my book is on the way as well, and I'm excited to read that. But what I liked about meeting her twice was the first time I genuinely felt like I was meeting someone who, although she was on the other side of the world, like we had such similarities in our upbringing and our artistic outlook. And then when I read her book, it really, really spoke to me. And that never would have happened if it wasn't for Inside the Rookery. So yeah.
Yeah,
I remember my actual highlight I've been thinking about the whole time is because I get to do all the comments and all the hosting. It's the people in the comments. So if you guys weren't here every week, then I just wouldn't have as much fun. And even though I don't bring up every comment, I'm a fast reader. I always have been. That's why I do Andy's research for him. I look at every comment. There was a while ago, there was a competition in the comments to see if they could make me laugh and realize that I was laughing at their comment. It happens all the time because I don't have a poker face. So yeah, as long as the question earlier about will we do more Inside the Rookery, as long as people keep coming and chatting with me and giving me comments and questions, then absolutely we'll keep doing it because it's amazing. So thanks to all big shout out to everyone in the comments. They have made Inside the Rookery for me.
Indeed, I'm going to make a shout out to one person in particular because I think he deserves it, because he is there week in, week out, commenting and asking questions, and that's good old Seagoat 777. Now, obviously, many of you are there, including the good old Mark McGrahan, but Seagoat has been there throughout the entire time. All I can say is thanks. Your questions, and often your insightful questions and sometimes challenging questions, are one of the reasons that Inside the Rookery works. And that applies to obviously to everybody, because all of your questions are what makes the difference. But Seagoat has been there consistently throughout. And I would like to say thank you very much, sir. You are a scholar and a gentleman, and you have brought additional joy to what is our humble little streams here in Inside the Rookery.
I will also give an honourable mention to Kilishandra, because every week those questions have also been amazing and challenging. So
actually, can we bring up that question? That question's important, because I think that we should definitely bring that one up. The one you just said.
You already said yes. You already. Oh, next masterclasses. Yep.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so there's something else to say on this one. We recently had a discussion on Discord about next masterclasses, and we had a nice big list out of all the ones we've had and the ones that we could do. I have been pondering those for the last week, and starting from next Wednesday, the first advert will go up. I'm going to be doing weekly masterclasses all the way pretty much up to Christmas to ensure that we've got everything covered. So if you want to join in with our masterclasses, that is for Brazen Rooks and above. We're going to be getting those all hammered out until we're completely caught up. I'm hoping by the end of season 6's episodes, we will have everything in place and done. So as we move into the new season, it'll be nice and fresh and new and sparkly and light. The first one we're going to be doing is a 1-hour tutorial on building NPCs for your game, both from the perspective of writing it, should you want to try and write your own supplement, but also building NPCs for as a GM that you can actually use and have benefit towards your game, but at the same point, don't limit you. This is something that many GMs do when they build up their support materials, that they overwrite. They just do too much material, and they end up getting so much stuff in their head that when someone says, what about the next person on the table, they freeze. Because they've just gone, oh, I've got this though. So it's going to be a process that you're going to be able to apply to build your own NPCs, and a further process that you can apply as a GM to ensure that you've got everything in place to improvise with the ones you've built and beyond the ones you've built. So that's going to be our first one. Advert for that will go up next Wednesday.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to that one, because it's one of the joys of role playing, I think, is playing all those ridiculous NPCs.
There's lots of questions I didn't get to, but we'll keep them for another Ask Us Anything. But there is one. If Andy Law, can you do, as our resident GM, can you do one final little tip for GM Fossey? Because
I can't read. You are going to have to read it out to me.
I'll read it out. This upcoming Wednesday, next week, my group and I are going to have the last session in a campaign that we've played for over 2 years. Any advice on how I can finish in style?
Yes, I do. You have a group of PCs, all of whom have stories. Give all of those stories an end. Give them something to celebrate. Give every single character something to go, I did that. I have finished my story. If you don't, the campaign will always have a certain amount of unsatisfactory long-term thought when it's that's tied to it. You really want to try and think of that character and what brings that character to an end. For some, that will be death. That is a good way to end a campaign. For some, that will be triumph. For some, that will be heartache. It will be an absolutely awful outcome for them because of the situation that you found yourself at the end. And that bittersweet end or that horrible end can sometimes be something that's super important. But loosely, everyone needs to contribute towards whatever the end of that campaign is. So whatever the great event occurs at the end, all of the sacrifices should lead to it. All of the failures should lead to it. There should be a certain amount of failing and succeeding forward that heads towards that conclusion. Take time to think of all of the characters before you do your conclusion. Make sure that they all have something that they have brought to the table, because they themselves might not realize they've got a story to tell. They themselves might be sitting there going, yep, here comes the end of the campaign. Not sure what I think about it. They probably haven't got a bunch of things that they want to do. It's in your hands in many respects to ensure, as the storyteller, as the GM, to make sure that their story concludes in a way that properly satisfies. So loosely speaking, how can you make sure it finishes in style? Finish it.
Yep. And in addition to that is I think you're on Discord. There's always helpful tips from the other GMs that are in Discord. So if you want to chew anything over, I'm sure if you pop it in there, there'll be people to talk to you. That brings us to the end of our story for this evening, but we are not ending it. We're not finishing in style. The Inside the Rookery story continues, even though it's our 100th episode, for the rest of season 6, which will finish just before Christmas, and then we'll have our traditional seasonal holiday. Until next week, though, I want to say, as always, thank you to my fellow Rooks for coming as the seer of sights on the high seas. He wants to drink your blood, and a character from South Park. It's been great to have you here tonight.
Goodbye, my fellow children of the night.
Read that.
Thank you to everyone. We will see you again soon. Thanks to our patrons. Thanks to our viewers. Please subscribe, share, do all those things afterwards if you're watching this later. And we will see you all soon. Caw-caw, caw-caw.
See you next year. Bye.
Caw-caw.